Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 53 of The DIG. On this show, we will be talking to a special guest, the new addition to the mining team at Export Development Canada, Steve Goodman. And we'll cover off the biggest stories hitting the headlines in our 6 and 60. Export Development Canada, or more commonly known as EDC, are well known to many companies for their export credit insurance. But they offer a lot more to help you grow your export market. One of those other valuable solutions is what we will dig into now. But first, let's get to our 6 and 60. Money raised in January for mining and exploration was under $1 billion for the first time since May of 2020. Newmont has agreed to buy Buenaventura's interest in the Yanacocha mine in Peru for up to $400 million. Wheaton Precious Metals will pay $125 million for a gold stream on the Sabina Gold and Silver Corp's Goose project in Nunavut. Aluminum prices hit their highest mark in over 3 decades due to a COVID outbreak in China and amid the Russia-Ukraine tensions. The U.S. Energy Department announced nearly $3 billion to boost domestic production of advanced batteries for electric vehicles and storage systems. And we hit a major milestone here on The DIG, surpassing 100 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you, and we look forward to welcoming the next 100. And that is your 6 and 60. MSTA Canada has a great strategic relationship with EDC. And we should, as they are very well aligned with our mandate, which is to connect companies to opportunities to grow their business. And for companies exporting, they should take full advantage of what EDC has to offer to help you grow your business. Later last year, Steve Goodman joined EDC as the new Global Trade Director for Mining. And recently, we were talking about the rebranded Trade Connections program. And I said to Steve, EDC does so much more to help companies than just offering the well-known export credit insurance. We should get you on the DIG to explain more about what EDC can do for companies. He quickly responded, let's do it. So with that, let's meet Steve Goodman from EDC and learn more. Hi, Steve. Welcome to the DIG.
Hey, Ryan. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So I'm glad to have you here because you're a bit of a new addition to the EDC team and in a role that we engage with EDC with a lot. So I wanted to get you on here and introduce yourself and maybe talk about a specific program. We know EDC does a lot, but first let's start off with who's Steve Goodman?
Right. Thanks. So, currently I'm the Global Trade Director for Mining within the Trade Connections Group over at EDC. Now, that might sound like a mouthful, but as we go through the session, I'm sure it'll be clear. My background, I started off my career after a healthy education, or maybe part of it was healthy. I got 3 engineering degrees, mechanical engineering, metallurgy, material science. But then I'll tell you that after, getting educated, I started my whole career in business development in a wide range of industries, and I never looked back. So over the past 25 years, I've had management positions in aerospace, semiconductor, and industrial automation sectors. Most recently, I come from Schneider Electric. Most people know that company is the world's largest energy management firm. And while I was at Schneider, I was the product lead on industrial automation equipment for harsh environments, remote environments, including mining, oil and gas, utilities.
Oh, excellent. Well, that's definitely quite the pedigree you have there, Steve. And it's nice to bring that outside flavor, if you will, into the mining industry. I know it's always very helpful to have fresh perspectives to our industry. So right. Welcome to our world, if you will, if I could say that. But before we dig into really what you do is for EDC and for its clients in mining, tell us a little bit about EDC's role. What's its purpose and what it's trying to do for the Canadian mining ecosystem?
Right. So I guess, most people know EDC for what it is. It's an export credit agency, or an ECA. There's ECAs all around the world. All sort of like well-developed countries have one, and they're in place to support the country in terms of individual growth within industry there. So essentially, EDC is an organization with the mandate to help Canadian companies manage the intricacies of exporting, no matter where in the world. For the mining sector, this includes a focus on Canadian miners themselves, but as well the supply chain that support miners in Canada and around the world. So from an EDC product and services perspective, it would really be difficult to explain it all in like one session. All I can tell you is it's highly varied. There appears to be a solution to about every scenario that you could imagine. Examples include working capital loans, financing, credit insurance, performance insurance, just to name a few. One thing that always gets me is when I watch the team work with the clients is that no matter what the problem is, there's always a solution at hand.
Right. Well, and what I see in our membership and just with the mining supply and services sector in general is they always know EDC for one aspect or another, but rarely do they have a nice comprehensive overview. And I'll definitely, like say, we can't finish it all today. We'll kind of zero in on one that I think is really important, but we'll definitely have to have you on and talk about the other ones at some point. But right now, let's talk a little more about, I guess, Steve and your department's mandate in EDC.
Sure. So the program that I work in is called Trade Connections. We're a group of about 150 persons or so, all focused on a unique offer that brings direct export opportunities to Canadian suppliers. And I'll explain what I mean. So the way it works is this. The program starts off with a wide range of sectors, including mining. So it's not just about mining, but mining is part of it. People listening here today might remember this program previously as the quote unquote pull program. That's a nomenclature that was dropped in about 2019 when we rebranded. So again, the program starts off with a group of sector experts, people who understand the business that they're focused on. They take stock in what Canada is best at and has to have what I'll say is a mature supply chain already in place within. So it's something that Canada does well. Mining, that's what we're talking about today, right? So the key point is that the sector should have a critical mass. So lots of Canadian entities who are growing and have a desire to export. And just as a matter of fact, I'll tell you that mining represents the absolute largest sector within the Trade Connections group today.
Wow. Okay, that's an interesting little fact there. So in terms of that let's maybe dig in a little bit more about this what I always call the pull marketing finance, if you will. Okay. Now you're trying. What's the official term for this program now?
Well, connection financing.
Okay. So, and I've heard it also called as what, Trade Connections Program, or is that how it's being marketed outward, or is that an inward kind of term?
I see. I don't know if we use any of those terms in our marketing, but it's like we started at the beginning. The Trade Connections group includes 150 persons. There's 3 subgroups in there. One of them is called Global Trade. That's the one I'm part of. And the other one's called Global Business Development. The other one's CLI for, whatever it stands for. And so once sectors are identified, the next step because we discussed before how we identify the sectors, what Canada's best at, right? After that, the next step is for our international business development team to search out large international companies who can take advantage of the identified Canadian supply chain. So now in the case of mining, when I say international clients, I'm specifically referring to large international miners who are in the market for debt financing, meaning they're wanting to finance their operations through debt rather than cash. So now this may sound surprising, but often even the largest mining companies prefer to finance operations through debt, and they usually do so through a syndicate of banks. So the syndicate and EDC would participate within that.
Okay. So let's dig in a little more about its relevance to the supply chain and say our members or mining suppliers at large. It's like, okay, so Steve, you've set up a credit facility or a working capital loan, I guess, if you wish to call it, or something. And these are fairly substantial, right? These are These are fairly large value loans.
Yes.
Okay. So what does that mean to me as a
What
supplier?
happens there? Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Great question. So once this relationship, this financial relationship, this transaction it really turns into something that is to a relationship, and I'll explain that. Okay. So the answer is wrapped up in the relationship, the one that we secure as part of the participation in that loan structure. All right. Essentially, the two parties, so that's EDC and this now international miner, we agree to the terms of the loan, of course, but we also agree on the premise that Canada keep a key part of their supply chain, and that EDC, our group, will act as a conduit to identifying opportunities for innovation and effective supply. Okay, so let me try and be more clear here. We only engage international clients who are credit worthy and CSR focused. Of course, we want to have good. We're a crown corporation, and we need to be very careful who we deal with. But they have to also be proven to be open to Canadian suppliers, and they're willing, as part of our let's enhance relationship. I keep using that word because it's really important. So they have to be part to grant access to us, access to their operations leaders with the objective of identifying real opportunities for Canadian suppliers.
Oh, okay. So you become effectively what's really good about this is anyone that's a candidate to taking advantage of this arrangement, they're already vetted. You don't have to worry about that. And these are fairly large companies, so there's a comfort level there. Sometimes these are massive organizations, and just trying to navigate on who to talk to and get access to these people is a challenge. So having someone like yourself, having those direct relationships are really key, I think. And so you talk to these groups, I guess, in terms of now I see us funneling into what I'll call matchmaking, right? You're starting to now look at these companies, and you're trying to find out, okay, we've got a portfolio of great solutions, but we want to make sure you need them, right?
Absolutely. One thing I forgot to mention, I talked about the critical mass in Canada. We're not going to go off in some sector that we're not really good at, right? Like we're not going to go out, we're not going to build rockets, right? We don't do very well in Canada in building rockets, right? So now remember before when I said the Trade Connections team searches the world over for candidate miners who would do well in the program, and then we go off and we sign the trend. Well, there are other points that drive the decision making from our perspective as well. We call it the cluster effect. Basically, what we're trying to say is that if we go into a region of the world, in mining in this case, it's not good enough for the program if we find a single customer in that area. Because then when we try and bring Canadians into that area to do export, they're like, well, you're only going to help us with one client? That doesn't make sense. We need to have a critical mass on both sides, not only with what just Canada does, but also what's happening in the region. And so with that said, our program today is mostly focused on South America, and more specifically, we have sector clusters within Chile and Peru. In total, we have 9 clients right now, Trade Connections. These are, by the way, some of the world's largest mines anywhere. We talk about Codelco, BHP, Escondida, Serra Verde, Collahuasi, just to name a few.
Okay, so that's good news for, I think, anybody listening. If you're a Canadian mine supplier, and it's like, man, here's the A list of multinational or super large mining companies, and I've been trying to find a way in. Oh my gosh, here's the conduit. Right. So what are some of those next steps? So you engage with these companies, and you're understanding their needs. Is that kind of step one of?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And it's not an easy thing. I'm going to, admit up front that the relationship that we have with these companies is complex, right? We start at the very top because the loan structure obviously is negotiated literally, it includes the board of directors, right? And then we're talking about the CEOs, we're talking about the CFOs. That's where it starts. That's the first relationship. Well, that's not going to do anything for, Canadian suppliers. So what we need to do is orchestrate our way downwards into the organization, and that's where it gets tougher. And we're doing a great job now because, like I said before, EDC within the Trade Connections group, we've started over the past years bringing in experts, not just underwriters. We have people who are experts in their fields. And so when we get a chance to go deeper into the organization, where we start speaking to management positions who are themselves pretty savvy as to what's going on, they know their problems, right? We have to be very diligent with them. We have to be open and sincere and humble. And then what happens as a result of that is we find out what's top of mind. What really is the problem at hand today in the short and medium term? Then once we've got that known, we go back into our, let's call it Canadian portfolio, and we try and find the best, potential solution providers. And then there's this, like you said, matchmaking, right? There's matchmaking that occurs, but really it's just a facilitated introduction. Once that's done, hey, the rest is up to you, right? That's when we hand off and we monitor afterwards. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I've always said that I always use the golfing analogy as we can find you the right golf course and the right fairway, but you eventually have to pick the right club and swing the ball for the ball.
You got it. You got it.
That's your part of the deal here. So, and we work very closely with EDC around the world in our international trade program where it makes sense. And at these major trade shows, you'll see companies that participate with us. They'll see you engage with us, and we'll be kind of the footprint to host your B2B matchmaking programs. I know because of the pandemic, there's been virtual engagements as well, and there's been virtual sessions that'll happen, and I'm sure that'll continue on now. But really, before we kind of close out here, what is it that you would how other than get in touch with Ryan, how else would they be able to kind of make a connection here in terms of this programming?
Okay. Well, what can I say? In order to get in touch with us, this is the way it goes. Any company in Canada that has a differentiator and is ready to export should get involved. Okay, so I'm going to start by saying that. Okay. Now, we usually start off with a short meeting between us to establish the readiness for the program, the company's readiness for the program, basically meaning we want to understand their desire to export, and especially into the regions that we're focused in. Once we have the company in our system, and most importantly, inside of our mind share, we promote the company. We proactively promote that company to the problems that we identified as we described before, right? And that this happens as we go through the rounds of identifying the challenges for each of these companies. And we're doing that daily because, 9 doesn't sound like a really big number, but it's actually quite a big number of sophisticated clients. In fact, like I said before, they're the who's who in that region. So now when we do our job right, matches are carefully done, and the suppliers, like I said before, it's like you said on the golf course, right? The rest is up to you. And I know that at the end of this program here, you're going to provide some contact information for EDC. So, I urge anyone who's listening and is interested to contact us, to learn more.
Okay, excellent. And before I let you go here, a lot of companies, and we know there's a lot of attraction to the innovative, the new and innovative solutions. But we also have to recognize that there's this what I'll, for lack of a better word, a traditional supply chain of products that are needed at these operations. So how would they fit in? Because sometimes they're like, well, they're looking for sensors, or they're looking for AI or something. It's like, that's not me. How would they fit into this?
Yeah, that's bang on. I mean, 30%, I'll say, in the past year of all of our effort, I will say, was on, water and mining. That's a pretty broad statement, and it's a really, tough, nut to crack for miners around the world for the past 100 years, and it's still a tough nut to crack today, especially on the larger miners that we've talked about before. I mean, we're talking about, I forget how many kilotons per day, but the number is astronomical. And so, a lot of Canadian companies who specialize either in clean tech, generically speaking, or in mining water management specifically, those types of companies. So that's not what you just asked, but I'm trying to show, the difference here. The second one that's on the other realm, is digitalization solutions, right? Everything to do with, I'm sorry for the cliche, Industry 4.0 approaches in the mine. I mean, everything from fleet management, ore selection, personnel management, and any digitally driven challenge, right? Those are easy for us in that we know that the miners are interested in that innovation. And so we're doing that all the time. But your question was about more like standard supply, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, the truth is we get great success with standard supply as well. So anything from drill bits to mill liners, conveyor belts, dust abatement solutions, they're, as long as the Canadian company has proven success in the region and some level of established presence there, Bob's your uncle.
Excellent. Well, that's good news to hear for, I think, a lot of viewers that might have felt that they had kind of almost opted themselves out because they didn't fit the, I'll call the bright and shiny objects, which are exciting, but we also know there's a whole slew of supply chain items that, to your point, are we call it standard in the protocol. Right. So
you got it.
I think with that, Steve, is there anything else you'd like to share before we sign off here?
Just that you're right that in the beginning we talked about how wide and deep EDC's offers are, and so we talked a little bit here about the connection financing, the trade connections group, and specifically what we do. But my golly, there's so much else that EDC does that I'm sure we're going to have to beg, borrow, or steal another invite to the dig so that we could get those on there as well.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to get you on, and we'll do a deeper dive on another one of the many products there, Steve, and be glad to have you back on. Thank you for being here today to share the connections, trade connections program, if you will. So thanks a lot for being on the dig. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan.
That's it for this week's episode. I'd like to thank Steve Goodman from EDC. And remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Mining Suppliers and LinkedIn. And subscribe to our YouTube channel to get instant access to all our episodes on the dig. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, I'm Ryan McEachran. Take care and stay safe.